Yeah, g'day team. So we're just on our way up to Brisbane from the beautiful Gold Coast. So I've been back and forthing with Scott from Brisbane on TikTok, actually, believe it or not. So I've been talking with him. We've agreed to do a bit of a podcast. So I know he runs a building company and they've got an e-commerce platform as well. So we're going to talk to him about everything building, sort of where the industry's at the moment. Probably a few controversial topics around how the government is affecting the building industry. So stay tuned for this one. It'll be good, and go follow him on TikTok. Put a link down below. Cheers. Thanks very much for showing us around the office today. It's very low-key, it's chilled. I just look at what our audience asks us, and obviously it's good to have you here today because I feel like Evan has told me, I feel like we're an ally for builders and residential builders. Yep. So I've one small example. I've got one guy on retainer in north of Auckland. He was charging out just doing labour-only contracts last year. His total yearly revenue was 450K. I've helped him come in and price from labour-only to full contract, yep. And now his yearly revenue is 2.5 million.
Wow.
So he was only making 20% of 400K, but yep. Now he's making 10 to 15 on 2 million. So yep. I love what you're doing because I feel like you're a real voice for builders as well, which is cool.
In a different segment.
Yeah, but also just being a voice for, because the construction industry is fucking hard. I haven't done it.
Dude, it's a graveyard.
Yeah, it's...
80% of builders fail in the first 5 years.
Yeah, I saw
Out of that 20% that's left, another 80% will fail in the next 5 years. You're literally at 2% that make it to 10 years.
Yeah, yeah.
It's,
and I did it for 7 years hard, and I think I didn't make much money over 7 years.
For some reason, the industry's become a race to the bottom.
Yep.
And I don't know, can we swear on this thing?
Yeah, 100%, man. This is raw, man.
It's like who can fuck over each other.
Yeah.
And I don't understand the dog-eat-dog mentality out of it, because the best relationships are one where it's a win-win.
Yeah, for sure.
Why should I, as a contractor, have to pay for your house to be finished? It's your fucking house.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly right. Cool, we'll start off from the top because I'm real keen to work through this. How long have you been in Brisbane, and what's the best thing you enjoy about living here?
Yeah, so I joined the Air Force in 1999 and got posted to Brisbane. So I did a 6-year Air Force career, and from there, once I got out of the RAF, I decided to stay in Brisbane. I was from Perth originally.
WA.
So yeah, I really cut my teeth on the building industry in Western Australia and got my ticket as a rigger.
Yeah.
Learned how to stand steel on construction sites, and then from there became a shed building contractor.
Okay.
And ran my own contracting business in WA. So I've been pretty much self-employed most of my whole adult life, except for my 6 years in the Air Force.
Yeah, nice.
And 6 months when I took on a shitty PAYG job so I could get a home loan.
Yeah.
That was basically it. I've been working for myself ever since.
Yeah, nice. So how old were you when you started doing that shed building stuff?
Yeah, so I went to Ag College in year 11 and 12 and came out with a certificate in agriculture. Then I worked on farms.
Yeah,
so
nice.
when you're working on farms and stations in WA, you're fencing, you're building, you're drafting, you're on motorbikes, you're doing all sorts of stuff. And I just found that out of that, I liked building things and making things. And I got a job as an off-sider for a shed builder. And that's really where I would have been 20 years old.
Okay, cool.
So
nice.
Been building ever since then.
Yeah, nice. And then you, at what stage did you move to Brisbane?
Yeah, so I got posted to Brisbane in '99.
Okay, cool.
From the Air Force. Now I already had a building industry background. I was 26 when I walked into recruiting to join, and they looked at me and said, "You're an old man. Why do you want to do this for?" And I said, "Well, I just wanted to do something different, and I knew that if I didn't do it at that age, I was never going to have the chance to have a military career." And I always obsessed about being a soldier or a police officer. So for me, it was like, well, this is the right point and the right time to do that. So cool. I did. And I wasn't actually the oldest person on recruit course anyway, so it didn't matter. I did my 6 years, and then I liked Brisbane, and I got out when I was done. Stayed here.
So you've been Brisbane for about 25 years now?
2005.
Cool.
I got posted here in '99. I was in Brisbane the whole time for my Air Force career, so I've been here for 25 years.
Yeah, nice. Okay.
I love it here. I love the sunshine. I like North Queensland. I think it's a very accessible place. I like the climate here in summer. I like it really hot and humid. Look at the winter.
I mean,
blue skies in 25.
Yeah, this is mid to end of June, and we're 21 degrees, so it's good.
Plus, I had all my mates here as well now, like post Air Force mates, and so it was hard. Would have been a hard place to leave.
Yeah, it's important. All right, I've come across you on TikTok. We've come to know you as Chal. What started you on socials? What was your reasoning going behind that? And do you have Instagram?
Yeah, I do have Instagram, but it was a personal Instagram.
Oh, okay,
I've only
cool.
just started an Instagram for that shallow Chal TikTok profile where I'm reposting those videos.
Yeah, nice.
Look, it was really one of those things that my kids said to me. When I say kids, I've got older teenage daughters.
Okay, cool.
Dad, why don't you have a crack at putting some stuff up on TikTok? You know, you bitch at us about how things are. So I made one TikTok after Christmas this year. This was in January because I just got back from Thailand. Yeah. And like when you travel, you're always looking at how other people build stuff.
Yeah, man.
And you know, I'm looking at these houses that people are building over there for $40,000. And I'm going, why can't we do this in Australia?
Yeah,
you know, we've got a housing crisis here. We can't get first homeowners in. You know, the price of land's killer. The price to build is killer. The building codes are crazy. And so I made one TikTok about that, and that went nuts. Like that got 600, 700,000 views, and I had no idea what was going on until one of my daughters said, "Dad, have you looked at that TikTok?" And I'm like,
"Have you logged in?"
No, I hadn't. And it was like about to hit 500,000 views.
Were they posting it for you? Or?
No, I posted it.
Oh, but you just didn't check it. You just posted it and walked away.
Yeah, I posted it and walked away. And
it was like your notification bar must have been
huge. I had, and then there was all these notifications from TikTok on there going anti-bullying and like it just turned into a free-for-all, and people were just fucking arguing with each other on there. Oh, you just want people to live in dog boxes, you know? It was like just this attack, and I think I'm kind of insulated because I've been on social media for a while promoting the business that I don't really take criticism too badly. I'm pretty, just attack me, I don't really care.
I love it, man.
You don't know. Yeah. And they're just helping your algorithm anyway, right?
I also love it, man. Some guys go, oh, fucking 150 hours to build that. And then I'll email, they'll be like, I'll message them back and be like, oh, how long would it take you? And they're like, oh, well, I'm not a roofer. Fucking stay out of it then. Like,
really good point, man.
Like, come on, man, why are you commenting? But you're right, it does help the algorithm.
Well, the National Construction Code was a big argument here last year for the people that were in the industry because the new NCC that came in was 7-star energy ratings and disability access, right? And we're going, so every new home build in Queensland must comply with that now. So you've got to have a fucking ramp into your house in Queensland. Now, who's the people that are most affected by the increase in prices? First homeowners. So all we've done is made it harder for younger people to get into the market in the middle of a fucking housing crisis. And this is where I scratch my head and I get really frustrated with it. And I don't have anything to lose. I've got a great business, I've got a great company around me, I've got a great wife, great children, all the rest of it. So fuck it, I'm going to put my opinion out there and just, you know, if people don't like it, then scroll on.
100%. What is some like positive stuff you've gotten out of it, negative stuff you've gotten out of it? Like, because it's pretty controversial and I fucking love it. I think it's good because, we've got different opinions on some things, but I like to be a real ally to the builders. But seeing stuff like that, I feel like it's it's helping the building industry.
I think it's helping the general public understand. And so what came out of that was, 2 Yahoo Finance interviews now, 3 interviews on 4BC Radio here. You know, people reaching out to me, making connections like yourself.
That's cool.
You know, I've got. It's impossible to return everyone's messages because you're getting somewhere between 20 and 100 messages a day.
I feel privileged.
Well, it's like there's certain things that stand out. Like, you know, I follow your stuff, came up randomly, building industry related, to see what you were doing, and like, follow this guy. And I think you commented on some of my stuff, and then it's kind of like you find these people that are reciprocal. I'm sorry to everyone that I've missed because it's impossible to keep up with it, but you know, it's this type of stuff. This is what's come out of it. Now, brand awareness, you know, okay, suddenly you become a spokesman for the industry, that can make you a target. But at the end of the day, like, we do great work. You know, we supply great materials. We're about Australia. We're patriotic. We employ lots of people. And I think that means something, you know. So if you want to destroy me, all you're doing is destroying the lives of the families that depend on this place to eat. Why would you do that? You know?
Have you had any like real threats or bad stuff, or like have you had people from higher up message you stuff and say, hey, you're kind of, because it's pretty disruptive, and I think it's good. You know, like governments or councils or anything on that level.
My wife's worried about that.
You don't. I mean, you come across kind of doesn't.
Mate, I'm an Air Force veteran, right? You know, and I was a machine gunner in a ground combat unit. So it's like they taught me to run towards bullets. So what the fuck? You know?
What's a few videos on TikTok gonna do?
I never got to do that, but you know, it was like, well, I was prepared to sign the check back then. So for me, it's like, well, I'm still a patriot. I love my country, and I just think that if more of us found the courage to stand up and say what we see as wrong,
Yeah.
I mean, you'd see this in the pricing models as well, trying to comply with these rules and regs, man. Look what's it doing. It's blowing out the costs, right?
Yeah, it's absolutely insane.
And you got some young family out there that is aspirational. You're an aspirational fella. I'm an aspirational fella. We want to be surrounded by people like us that want to do something with their lives.
Yeah.
Now, in order for society to function and for the social cohesion of our country, we must have aspirational people.
Yeah.
That means families, houses, children.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We start wiping that out, dude, we're screwed.
Yeah.
We've got nowhere to turn.
Yeah.
And so that's the glue that holds us together. And in this industry, we build and improve homes. That's what we do.
Yeah.
And we improve people's lives.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Have you had any big shocks, or do you want to go back to that point maybe about being on social media in regards to messages of what you've seen, or what is your wife worried about? That must be a convo. Like what's
Becoming a target.
Okay, cool.
Like the business being destroyed.
Yeah.
You know, the left of politics is very aggressive emotionally. And
100%.
we've already had our fair share of disagreements with people on the left side of politics that have.
Yeah.
Like Megs' role out here, I've got a full-time tech and social media person, because we have had multiple social media attacks on the business over the last, kind of year as well.
Can you give a little example of something off the top of your head?
Death threats,
No way.
people parking outside our house, taking photos of our house, posting stuff online about our children, creating fake Facebook profiles of me, and then just jumping on and rampaging around the place pretending to be me.
No way.
That's been pretty consistent for the last year.
Fuck. Yeah, I mean, I take it you're probably not the kind of guy I want to fuck with, really, so kudos to them.
Well, it's like...
I just think that's outrageous, don't you
I think they're mostly women, mate.
Yeah?
Yeah. That's my estimation of it,
Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah.
In regards to the building market, what is some of the biggest risks for builders at the moment, residential builders?
Not being compliant, like paperwork and compliance.
Health and safety?
Look, health and safety, yes, but I think that what we've got now is a generation of guys that have mostly grown up with it consistently. It was the older guys I used to worry about all the time, because fuck me, you could never get them to put hearing protection on, you could never get them to wear hats on site, they just be fucking hanging off a roof. It's like, but the younger guys are more conscious of it now, because it's been drilled into them all the time. So yes, health and safety, we want to make sure that we're compliant in that regards, but in all honesty, I think the biggest threat to builders out there right now is the government.
Yeah.
Like trying to maintain your licenses, trying to maintain your financials, for your financial reporting for your licenses, trying to make sure that your licenses cover the category of work that you're doing, trying to make sure that your insurances are up to date. Like, I mean, the bleed that we see in the business when we work out our forecast going forward, the biggest risk to us is government.
Yeah. Yeah, that's insane. I mean, it's already hard enough to make a profit, and it's already very competitive, and then you add in all this stuff on top. And if it's constantly going up, but you can't charge more, like everything's getting squeezed. Profits and then costs coming up. Where do you draw the line?
So, I made that point in a few of my videos. 3,000 builders have gone under in Australia in the last 12 months. And a lot of people go, well, the builders are greedy. Builders make too much money. Fuck them, they deserve to go under. But at the end of the day, that's 3,000 hopes and dreams, not to mention the hundreds and thousands of subcontractors that were underneath those companies, the families that were affiliated and associated with it as well. Like all the downstream repercussions, man, it's massive.
You could easily average 3,000 builders, let's say they're biggish builders building 20 houses a year, times that number, and then you add 10 subbies per builder. It's a lot of houses not being built, and it's a lot of subbies not being paid.
Yeah, and it's not being fair in the application of that either, because we've seen builders that have gone under for $200 million, right?
Yeah.
And these guys were allowed to trade insolvent, knowingly by the licensing and regulatory bodies.
That they're running at a loss.
But they went, look, if this guy goes under, we're going to have to pay out on these insurance premiums, so why don't we help them trade insolvent? But if you're... Like, I got pinged by the QBCC up here 2 weeks ago for my site signs. My lettering on my signs was 11 millimetres too small.
Yeah.
Right, so...
Who gives a fuck? Who fucking cares?
You got builders out there that are, the thing about the building industry and the QBCC, especially here in Queensland, is it's not helping to lift up the horse that has fallen while it's pulling the cart. It's putting the boots in and kicking people while they're down. And that's our building industry up here, and that's our licensing body. Yeah,
that's so bad. Obviously I've learned a little bit about how you're running your business here, and I personally thought you were just a residential home builder, but you're doing all these other great things. My main question here is for other builders to help them. Is there another pivot you see for builders of what they can do? If they're just a builder, what more can they do if these costs keep getting worse? What can they do to make an income?
Yeah, Yeah, that's a really good point. But I mentioned to you before that we have a motto here, and I almost ingrained it onto everyone. It's called staying in our lane.
Yeah.
Because when we step out of that lane, we get into trouble because we know we're good at what we do. The problem with the building industry as well, and for a lot of builders, is they'll go, I'll pivot into this and have a crack at this and see if I can supplement what we're doing here to try to add more revenue or add some profit to the business. But what you can find is if you don't know what you're doing, you're just going to end up with more problems on your hands. And so it's a hard one to say. Now, look, as a building company, we added some e-commerce business models to our company structure. We used to, I had a business partner. We started the company in 2009. We built some new homes. Some beautiful spec homes. We built some magnificent renovations, raising building under, second levels, stuff like that. And we really enjoyed doing that type of work. But what we noticed that from 2009, especially post GFC through to about 2013, the nature of customers changed because they became less trusting of builders because of what they saw happening in the economy around you as well. So clients became more litigious. So from my perspective, we got away from those larger $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 projects and moved into more of the smaller stuff.
Nice.
And that's where and it took time to transition to that, but the relationships were shorter, the revenue was more secure, there was less opportunity for something to go wrong. And then through that, we added those e-commerce businesses where we started selling building materials online.
Yeah, nice. How long do you think the transition was with the business from going from, 2 to 500K jobs to what's your average revenue project now? 40 to...
Installed between 20 and 40. So we'd probably say 30K.
Yeah, nice. And like you said, you can be in and out in 2 to 3 weeks. Because I think maintaining relationships with clients is so hard.
It's the hardest part, mate. You only need one tiler or one shit tradesman to do something wrong and you've blown the project. Now, I wanted to move to a smaller, shorter relationship business model in the building industry earlier, but we couldn't generate enough leads at a cost-effective price to justify it because it's a very competitive market out here for decks, patios and carports, especially in Queensland where the outdoor lifestyle is such a big thing.
And is that like the least regulation on licensing to get in to do those jobs? Like,
you don't need a builder low-rise license.
Okay, cool.
So a carpentry license or a shed and garage builder's license. Some landscaping licenses will cover that. Builder low-rise though, for Class 1 habitable, that is a much harder license to get here in Queensland. It is a different licensing setup, but anyone who's licensed to build houses now can build home improvements. The problem for them is generating the leads in the home improvement sector. So as a standalone builder, if you were just trying to do decks and patios, you're going to be competing against some really big players out there that are paying a lot for their leads and can spend a lot of money. Altec, one of Brisbane's largest patio companies, spends 30% of their revenue on advertising. Now, you probably don't watch daytime television. If you turn the TV on at 9 a.m, you're going to get an Altec ad. You watch 7 or 9 in any metro area in Brisbane, you're going to get an Altec ad. Those ads are fucking expensive. Man. So Altec charge you 3 times more than we would for the same project because they have to spend 30% of their revenue on TV ads.
And they're just trying to outbid and outget in front of...
They're outbidding everyone. Google, Facebook, the whole lot. So what we did was we started a company that sells prefabricated building materials for people to build their own patios.
Nice.
Right? And by default, we generated much cheaper leads.
Nice.
The cost of our leads came down, like to a fifth of what they were before. And we established a kit market. Where someone, if they wanted an install, we upsold the install. So suddenly our building company didn't need to advertise anymore.
And you just probably knew it was a numbers game. Like if you're selling 10 kit sets, 6 are going to be too lazy or too out of time to do it, and then you're going to be right there to say, yep, we offer install as well. Done.
Well, weirdly enough, about 20% of the kits we sell never get built.
No way.
This will blow your mind.
So they're just sitting in the back of backyards just
never got done.
Timber frame stuff? Timber stuff?
Nah, steel frame.
Steel, I was going to say.
We only sell steel frame stuff.
Okay, cool. None of that.
So, about 20% never get built. Plans change, they sell the kit to someone else, they move on, they sold the house, just didn't happen. That doesn't mean... what we found is that people want to make an emotional purchase. They want to feel like they're doing something. And so we facilitate that doing something by offering building approvals because we do the building approvals through us for 3 states, Victoria, New South Wales and Queensland as well. So we get you on the journey.
Do you know if other companies offer that service as well, or do they just go hands up and say, sort your council stuff out yourself?
We're the only kit business that offers that in Australia.
Did you? Yeah, that's. Don't you think?
Well, it's an offshoot company that's owned through the group.
Okay, cool.
I'm not allowed to personally approve. I'm not allowed to be a building certifier because I'm the licensed builder here.
But you've got a set up separate business model within the business that has that service.
Yeah,
that's crazy. I want to go back to one point about bigger companies paying for those leads. Obviously, you would have gone from, like I said at the start, a bigger job you can get potentially more profit. They are harder to. How do you maintain profit margins on the smaller jobs? Like that can be hard because if it's more competitive.
Yeah. So you've got to make sure that your baseline day rate number is high enough to cover any eventualities.
Yeah.
And so I've got a pretty strong design and sales team here.
Yeah.
It takes about 6 to 12 months to train someone in that role to be an effective estimator and pricer and designer of these type of projects.
Okay, cool.
There's a lot to learn. You remember when, from yourself, being on the tools, learning how to price and estimate. It's one thing to look at it and go, oh, well, it's going to cost me $1,000 in materials, and we get some of the guys fall into this trap, and we've got to teach them out of it. Is they go, oh, but the materials are only $4,000, so why is the labour more expensive than the materials?
Yeah.
Well, labour is expensive. That's where the big part of your building project comes from. It's the labour, it's time, it's insurances, it's a vehicle running around. It's all that type of stuff. So, how do we price it effectively? Well, we have some formulas that we work on materials times.
Yeah.
But we also look at it on a case by case basis as well with regards to days.
Yeah. Okay. Do you look at obviously everyone does this in every business, but how do you look at, say, last week 10 quotes sent out, we only won 7, 3 got rejected for those reasons. Are you constantly analysing that?
Constantly. So we use a CRM called HubSpot, and that is the absolute backbone of our business. Everything within this business, from ordering to quoting to tracking, projecting, forecasting, dashboarding, all of it comes out of HubSpot. Every person in our group is connected to that HubSpot, and we can all see in real time what's going on. So we can see when something's ordered. We get notifications internally. So we have a full-time HubSpot role in the business where someone is creating workflows and notifications in there. All of our contracts are signed through that. Everything's digital. We're completely paperless here.
That's cool, man. A lot of younger builders in that follow us, guys going on their own and stuff. You can just personally give me a couple of examples, but what are some difficulties you've seen within the business on the building side? How do you manage those? I mean, I'm sure we've all got a few examples, but
variations and customers' expectations, and so communication is absolutely key. I mean, you can never over communicate enough with the customer. Classic point. I meet boys on site. We're building a big deck on a house in a high-end suburb here in Brisbane. We get everything started. Next thing I know, I've got a phone call from the customer at about 10 a.m. and she's crying on the phone because we've turned the power off, and she wants to make her morning coffee. And it's like, well, I hope she's not listening. We told you we're going to turn the power off. But I need to make my coffee. Oh, I get that, but you knew we had to do this. But I thought I was going to get to make my coffee first. So what's one of the biggest things? Communication, right? The other thing is variations. Like similar job again, we found a gas line behind a wall that we're trying to put a deck on, so we've got to move the gas line. Now, I can organise a plumber. I can push on and just accrue that $3,000 cost myself, or do I making sure that the client's signing off on a variation? Because a verbal variation doesn't stand up in court.
No,
it's whenever, the only time we've ever got ourselves into trouble is when we assume the variation instead of getting the variation signed.
Okay, no, that's cool. Have you seen a rough way or like a change in the way clients have approached jobs, say like in the last year, 2 years, like obviously with all these builders going under? Is that a question you guys get? Like, are you financially good for this job?
100%.
You're not going to,
And I encourage customers to do their due diligence on that. Jump online, check my license. Okay, check it, and then jump online, check my reviews. I'll stand up by that all day, every day. We've got some not great reviews there. Like everyone any business, you're never going to make everyone happy. Someone's going to give you 3 stars and still say they did a great job because they can't help themselves. They have to, right? And it's like, well, there's always a backstory to things as well, and so you're never going to make everybody happy. So stand up. You got a license in Queensland. You get licensed. Anyone can search licenses online. It's the same in Victoria. So just jump on, do your research.
Are there a lot of people, doing building work without licenses and that? Like, is that happening quite
Massive,
a lot?
But not as big as it used to be because about 20 years ago they bought the BSA, which used to be the Building Services Authority, became the QBCC about 15 years ago. So the BSA, when I first got into the industry here, the limit for license to work was $3,300. So anyone
annually.
So no, per job.
So
yeah, so it was $3,300. So anything over $3,300 had to have a QBCC insurance policy on it.
Yeah.
Right. Below $3,300, you're a tiler. You could do a small bathroom job. 20 years ago, $3,000 to get your bathroom tiled. Right.
Yeah, man.
Now it's the same price still, $3,300, and it's 20 years later. It's never changed. So we see people through things like Airtasker or through Marketplace advertising those unlicensed services. Where I find customers get caught out a lot is on concrete.
Yeah.
Like they won't get a licensed concreter in there. And if you get the concrete wrong, you're fucked, right?
Yeah, man.
So there'll be splatter up the walls and boxings like this, and it's out of level, and they're like, oh, aren't you going to build on that? And it's like, dude, look at this thing. It's,
how are we going to build on that?
You know, it's a snake, and it's 50 mil out of level, you know, but... I find people try to cut corners because they might not know, and so they will contract someone to do the job for them unlicensed, and then there's no payment structure as well, because as a license builder we must follow particular payment guidelines under the legislation. So it's designed to protect the customers. It's not designed to protect the builders here.
I don't know too much about all that stuff, but how often are they checking up on that stuff, and what are the penalties on that if you do stuff unlicensed? The big thing would be if you end up in a dispute and you don't resolve the dispute. So if you get what they call an order to rectify or a defects notice from the QBCC and you don't act on that, then you can attract demerit points and your builder's license can be cancelled. I see, okay. At the current climate that we are in, what do you see as like the biggest threat right now? Government. That's it, yeah?
Yeah, 100%. The bureaucracy will kill us. Yeah, it's gone beyond the threat of economic problems like Ukraine and the price of fuel and whether we're going to go nuclear or not. I mean, all of that is complete and utter bullshit. It doesn't mean anything. The biggest threat to you right now in business is government. Government, for no other reason other than the fact that they must exist, continues to get larger and larger. And in the last federal budget, they announced they're going to employ 40,000 more public servants. That's more than the amount of soldiers we have in our country. To do what? To create more legislation, more bureaucracy, and more layers to make it even harder to be able to run a small business. Now in Australia, we are considered a small business because we have less than 20 employees, right? So you've got 2.5 million small businesses in Australia. Half of them made no profit last year.
They're better off on
How sustainable
wages.
is that?
You
know, I mean, and they made no profit because look at I call it the mafia, dude. Like when I'm running through the bills every Thursday and we spreadsheet our bills, we run through it all, I authorise what we're paying, etc. I look at how much I'm giving the government every single week. And it's like, it doesn't matter whether I make profit or not, they don't care. They still want their slice. You know?
It's like whenever you get paid, you're paying the government. Whenever you pay someone, you're paying the government. Whenever you buy something, you're paying the government. And it's like, man, where is the chance to make a bit of money here?
But most people don't realise where those government layers are. So take an insurance policy, for example. In Queensland, we have a 20% premium that goes to the state government on every insurance policy. Plus we have GST on top of that as well. So that means 30% of your insurance policy is going straight to government taxes. Straight up. Now we've seen in the last 12 months a 40% increase in our insurances. You know, our power bill has doubled in the last 6 months here.
6 months?
Now what's creating that pricing pressure? Government. Because we don't have a secure energy policy, right? Oh, we're going to transition to this, and this. I don't give a fuck about any of that. What I care about is, can we pay the bills today? Right? And they're lying to everyone. They're lying to everybody. And this is why, I pulled up a bit of social media following about it, because I'm sick of pretending that it's not there. Because what they've actually done is they've created a structure where you will be penalised for being entrepreneurial. That's what they're going to do.
They don't want it. They want everyone just sort of sitting under a banner, working their 40 hours and. And
they can switch you on and they can switch you off. I don't want to sound like a tinfoil hat conspiracy theorist, but when we end up in our 15-minute cities with our central bank digital currency, dude, and your carbon emissions are calculated on the flights you took from New Zealand this year, you don't get to eat tonight. You don't get to drive down the road. You can't tell me that's not coming. This is coming.
I'll tell you the one thing I do not support is if a place doesn't take cash. I'm out, man. If they 100%. Say, sorry, no cash accepted, I'll go to the next one. Even though I'm...
Never leave home without it, mate.
If
they take cash, I pay cash.
I think that's great, man. 100%. I mean, that's a whole nother topic right there. And
I know, but what I see coming now is so close that it's... Because I've seen the transition, you've seen this in business as well. And I don't know what New Zealand's like, man. I mean, you guys had a pretty tough government there for a while. And it's an even harder place for the building industry over there. They have a different licensing structure, as I understand it, as well. But you guys have got plenty of rules and regulations to comply with, man.
Yeah, it's a lot. I mean, we're lucky to have a bit of a decent change in government now for what I'm after. But yeah, definitely what we had before was very tough, and it is very hard. Like the amount of people we have flocking away from New Zealand, and I'm personally not going back to New Zealand for a while for a few reasons.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very.
What created your housing crisis?
I reckon leaky home stuff and cost to get in. Definitely the cost to get in. Like, how can you, if your average salary is $60,000 or $50,000 in a house in, okay, not everyone's going to buy in Auckland, but is $800,000. It's like, where are you supposed to get a 20% deposit for $800K?
100%.
And you're paying $7 for a lettuce.
Yeah.
How do you feed a family of two? Like, how do you do it?
Yeah.
You know? And we don't even have a fucking train to run into the centre of Auckland.
Yeah.
And then you've got to drive around, and then you get stung with a $90 parking ticket, and parking's $25.
Yeah.
Who can afford that?
Who can afford that?
Yeah, it's out the gate.
Our first house I bought was in Perth in 1996, and I paid $87,000 for it, right? Now,
See?
back then, I remember losing sleep thinking about the size of that mortgage. But now, you know, we do decks on the back of people's houses for $80,000.
Yeah, man.
You know, buy a whole house in 700 square metres.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, 20 years ago.
Yeah, I don't know, because people go, oh, well, you boomers and your old Gen Xers, you had it easy. I'm an older Gen Xer, but it's I guess it's relative to some degree, but the prices now are ridiculous. It's astronomical.
Yeah, it's absolutely.
And so why should bureaucracy chew up 10 to 15% of that project? And why should the National Construction Code and ramps on your houses add another $100,000?
Yeah.
It's nuts.
I saw that one you put up this morning around how, I don't know who it was, but they're getting a pay rise to $700,000.
The Australian Governor General.
I'm like, what are you doing?
It was like a 30% pay rise. For what? She doesn't even believe in the monarchy.
Yeah.
So she's meant to be the Queen's representative in Australia, and she's going to get $709,000 a year. Plus she gets a free house to live in, and a driver, and an aeroplane for the rest of her life, and all the rest of this shit.
Yeah.
It's honestly, it's run by mafia, mate. It's literally the Sopranos here.
Yeah.
Except they're Aussie nice lawyer criminals.
That's crazy, man. I love the way you put that, eh? This one's a good one here. This may not be possible, but without political being too controversial, what do you think the government can do to make a difference in the industry? Because obviously they don't want to, but you know, if you had the chance, what are some things they could do? Yeah.
So, well, for new home building, I'd revert back to the old building code. I'd probably go back about 7 or 8 years. So go back a couple of steps in the building code so that we can reduce some of those input costs. I would definitely be looking at the contracting laws and addressing the way we've structured those in Australia that make it even harder for builders to employ contractors.
Yeah.
They say that, you know, that means your builders just want to rip off the labour. That's actually not correct, because I've never had a contractor working for me that was not unhappy being a contractor. They're doing it because they like being that. They like doing that. They want to be a contractor.
A little bit of flexibility. They can take Friday off, 100%. And if they pull up a sick day,
and they can say that to me. Look, mate, I don't want to work next week. You know, and I go, okay, great. Well, thanks for letting me know. I've got some other guys lined up, and that works for them, you know. But they've structured the employment laws in Australia now so that it's going to get even harder, and those inputs are going to get even higher. So some immediate things that could be done was I would be pulling back on the National Construction Code to try and pull us back to a level where it was sustainable to build houses at an affordable price, and then looking to free up labour somehow. The other thing that we've got a problem with is, you know, I've had a building company for 15 years and I haven't graduated one carpentry apprentice. Why? We can't get kids to stick. We can't get them to stay. Now, 15 years, no carpentry apprentices coming through.
Ooh, that's a big problem.
New Zealand will be in the same boat. We got, you know, for every 10 tradesmen out there, apparently there's only 6 or 7 coming through to replace them. So what's that going to look like in 10 years' time? Yeah,
we're fucked. And if we're still not building enough houses,
anyone with some qualifications is going to be well sought after. You know, and if you can establish that now, and I look at this. You know, universities have a tax exempt status. They bring in these students from overseas and they fund themselves with huge amounts of revenue. And then they make Australian kids pay up a huge HECS debt to go to university, right? So if they're going to bring in all these foreign kids to study, why can't I put on a carpentry apprentice from Colombia? Why can't I? I'm not allowed to.
Do you know why that?
Just because the visa won't let them do it.
That's crazy.
I've got to train Australian kids. That's great. But if the Australian kids, there's not enough of them and they don't want to do it.
Same in New Zealand, man. It's the same problem we're having over there. Can you, just in case people don't know, can you touch on that subcontractor versus employee thing, how they don't want They don't want subcontractors anymore?
No, they don't. So they're trying to make it so that building companies like us can't have contracting teams.
Yeah.
So they brought it in a number of years ago that if you earn 75% of your income from one employer, you've got to pay their superannuation. Now, superannuation is at 11.5% now, I think.
Yeah.
So if you think about that, right, like, you know, you're paying tax and then you're paying another 11.5 to a super fund that you're not going to be able to touch until you're 65 or 67.
Yeah.
So it's a big chunk of money that comes out of your income. So they brought in super for contractors, so we have to pay their superannuation. And that was a big kick in the guts for a lot of companies because they hadn't factored that in. And then they got these huge superannuation bills. Let's say they had 10 or 20 contractors. They hadn't paid the superannuation for a year or two. These guys came out of the woodwork and said, hey, you owe us now. And suddenly you've got hundreds of thousands of dollars in superannuation obligation. That crippled a lot of businesses.
Yeah.
So it's very important to make sure that you are paying those obligations or super obligations as you go forward. So they brought in that. That made it harder to bring in contractors because not having that liability meant that we had labour at a particular price. And then it jumped by 11.5. So that was a big one. Now they've made it so that they don't want us to have contractors, they want us to have full-time employees.
Yeah.
So the way around that was to put people on casual, but after a certain amount of months, we have to offer them a full-time role.
Yeah. That's annoying, eh?
So if I put guys on full-time, now in Brisbane up here this year, 2024, it's June the 25th or 6th today.
Yeah.
We've lost about 60 days of building work midweek for rain so far this year.
For rain?
Yeah. So if I had those guys on full-time, what would my liability be?
Yeah.
You know, now at the moment, since COVID happened, right, everyone who gets sick doesn't get sick for a day, they get sick for a week now.
Yeah, 5 days.
I don't know if you've seen this, right? But we noticed it a lot. They're not just out for a day, they're out for 5 days. So if I had to put all those contractors on full time, which is where the government's pushing us towards with this, I'm not going to be able to afford the builders. I'm not going to be able to afford it without passing those costs on to the consumer, and then the price of your building work's going to double. So in the middle of a cost of living crisis, we're going to see a rapid increase in the cost of labour. We're going to see National Construction Code coming through, increases again in 2025, so it's going to get even harder to build to meet those compliances. And we've got a government that's taking more tax now than at any time in the history of Australia. Think about that for a second. We have had wars, right? We've been in world wars where the government didn't take as much tax as they are off us right now. It's a record level of tax revenue. Why?
And what's it going to?
What's it going towards? What 40,000 more public servants, mate? When we can't fill defence slots in Australia.
It's bad, man.
So graduating income for a police officer in Queensland at the moment, you want to have a guess how much that is?
Oh, Jesus, 75K.
$100,000. Now, not to take anything away from our coppers, right? Like, honestly, a lot of guys I serve with, my brother-in-law, coppers, mate, they got a tough job. A tough job, and they deserve every dollar they get. But how do I compete against that? To bring in a kid on an apprentice wage to get through 4 years, right? To hopefully be on 100K when he gets out in 4 years' time versus, what I think I'll just go to the police academy for 12 weeks.
And then come out
and
with
get posted out to Townsville or something.
And then I'm on 100K.
100K, plus overtime, probably finish the year on 140, 150K.
What would you do to try and sort of help or talk to young kids or whatever wanting to come through and do apprenticeships? Because I mean, that backlog, when that runs out and those older lot of guys or move out.
Well, think about what changed in apprenticeships, right? So when I was coming through high school, you finished year 10 and there was 2 options. You're either going to do a trade or you're going to go do a year 11 and 12. Now, I went and did year 11 and 12. I didn't do a trade at 15 years old, but that was the option back then. You pulled the kids out of school at 15, they finished year 10, and they went and did a 4-year trade. Carpentry, electrical, plumbing, mechanics, whatever it was, right? So they were 15 years old. Most of them were living at home with mum and dad, so they could afford those low wages. Right? And there were some subsidies as well and some government incentives to be able to keep those guys in those trades.
Tool supplements and stuff.
So now you can't do that at year 10. They want every kid to finish year 12, and they're forecasting that they want 80% of year 12 graduates to go to university. Now, why is that? Because they're more likely to vote left. Right? Sound like conspiracy theorists again. Oh, you're just a conspiracy theorist. And but I can see what's happening here. You're losing your tradesmen, you're losing the culture of our society, and you're losing those type of people that will potentially become entrepreneurial business people one day as well. Contractors, starting their own carpentry framing business or starting their own plumbing company. Right? We're losing that.
We're heading for a pretty rough ride.
How do we incentivise apprentices to stay in? I'd make apprenticeships tax-free. Like, it doesn't matter whether you're an older apprentice or a younger apprentice.
True.
Your apprenticeship should be tax-free in Australia. This should be a non-negotiable.
Yep.
It's insane to me. And they go, oh, but it's really hard to police that. Well, it's actually really easy, because right now, if you're in the Army Reserve and you go do 20 Army Reserve days a year, it's tax-free. So we already have a precedent.
Yeah, there's already a system for that.
We already have fucking precedents for this, right? Tax-free precedents. So why not do that for the kids? Now, Australia had 380,000 apprentices last year, and 50,000 of them quit. Ooh. We ended up with 330,000 to replace the 500,000 that are going to peel out.
Yeah.
Now, I'm 52. How many more years have I got left of this inside of me, right, before I'm going to go, you know what, I'm done.
Yeah,
right, it's time to go sit on a beach in Thailand. Right, so we're not replacing the tradesmen.
Yeah.
There's a generation that are in my group, my 50-year-old group, that are just going, I think I'm done. I've got a couple of houses, I've got a nice car and a caravan, I'm out.
Everything's good, yeah.
Done. And those kids aren't coming through. So we've got to incentivise the kids.
Yeah.
And people go, well, more TAFE places. They need more TAFE places. TAFE doesn't create great tradesmen.
No. Being on the tools and learning off tradesmen to create good tradesmen.
Yeah, that's right. And give them the option at 15.
Yeah. What would you, if you could do some talks to schools and that, what would you say, or how would you motivate young kids to try and get in and come into the trades?
Yeah. I would talk about my own experiences and where the places that it's taken me. Prior to joining the Air Force, I was on a building site one day and they needed some guys to go to Africa. So I went to Africa for 6 months.
Pretty cool fucking story though.
But boom.
Yeah.
Right? And I was on another building site one day and they needed some guys to go do some roofing on a mine site.
Yeah.
Up north in WA, and boom, off I went.
Yeah.
And so it can take you places.
Yeah. And also this as well is pretty cool. Two-story office building, got the vehicle, couple businesses set up. Like that's not everyone can do that, and I think it's cool to be. You could say, "Oh, I'm just a builder," but look what you've turned out to do now. It's real impressive.
Yeah. Thank you.
I think more people need to see that stuff. Maybe there's a bad stigma around being a builder, or builders are just bums or something. But builders are fucking smart people, and it's a hard gig.
100%.
It's a fucking hard gig.
I actually found it really easy to transition into it from the military aspect of it, because the military guys I found were motivated, trained to move forward, like to put stuff in a row, and then go, okay, what's the process? What's the manual say to do here? So I find if you could take that same mindset, and some of the most successful business people I've met were guys that I come through the military with. So these young guys, I would say, look, do your trade, join the Army Reserve as well at the same time, and get the best of both worlds.
I think it's hard, man, because you see so much bullshit on social media, and I could be a thing of this, but everyone sees the flashy stuff, but trades are going to make so much money in 5 years, 5 to 10 years. They're going to make so much money.
Yeah, but who's going to come for them?
Yeah.
Yes, the opportunity.
But if a 16, 17 or 18-year-old could just turn off social media and not hang out with that friend group that's trying to do that flashy shit for 4 years, they're going to come out with a skill, and they can be, if they can learn a little bit of business stuff. That's another thing. I feel like, when I first started getting into QSing, there's nothing in the apprenticeship schedule around running a business or pricing or how to do those modules or dealing with clients. If you can learn that stuff on the side, I think you can be. I don't have kids yet, but I'll be pushing them into a trade. I'll be you can make a shit ton of money out of it.
I definitely agree with you, mate. I honestly think that the backbone of a trade is a great thing to have. Whether you use it or not, you decide to do something else. It's a backbone of a skill set. It gives you an ability to say that you can make something and do something. I think it's powerful.
And just a fucking hard work ethic too. I still remember digging post holes with an ice cream bucket because it was 1.8 in the ground, and you can't get a shovel down. And shit at the time, but it's character building.
I got a young guy, he's 27, right? He's one of the guys on our tour, on the tools with us. He was a salesman with us for 3 years. He come up to me one day and said, you know what, Scott, I want to learn to build.
Yeah, good on him.
I've been selling this stuff for a long time. I want to learn to build. And he's an apprentice with us now, a mature age apprentice. Hopefully you'll be the first apprentice that we ever graduate.
Nice.
But
good milestone for the company.
There's a couple of different people out there, but it's one of those things. There's a motto that says if you can build and you can sell, right, you've got the best of both worlds. Because you can create something with your hands and then you can sell that thing. And if you know how to hustle and you know how to build, it'll all come together for you.
You're fucking unstoppable. Keen to just do a little chinwag around maybe when you're not building or in the office, you obviously work out. That's come from a military probably background. What do you do personally? What's your sort of day-to-day like when you're not working? What do you like to do? What are your activities?
Mate, I fall asleep on the couch at fucking 7:30 at night time. I'm literally granddad at night time. I'm useless, but that's because I get up so early. I've got a beautiful wife and 4 daughters between us.
Nice.
I'm ridiculously blessed,
Yep.
great people. So the gym's obviously a big part of my life, and every day I get up and train. So
Yep.
I have a fantastic shed at home. I've built myself an excellent gym in there.
Don't lie, mate. It's a TikTok studio now.
TikTok studio now,
Yeah.
and put a pool in down there a few years ago, an in-ground pool, and that's really my man cave spot.
Yeah.
And a lot of people go, "Oh, it's a gym." I was like, "Yeah, but it's my gym."
Yeah.
When COVID was on, I didn't have to worry about lockdowns and not being able to train and anything, because honestly, I am a strong Christian as well, and so for me, it's like faith. Physical strength, mental strength,
nice.
and an emotional attachment to things, and
Yep.
and I think that if you can get all of those 3 things in balance together, you do well in life.
Yeah, it's real cool, man. Yeah, don't mean to blow smoke up you, but I think you're a real good role model for builders and business owners. Like, it's good. And it's good to have someone, speaking so strongly about an opinion on something, which is good, because I feel like a lot of people are scared to speak out on shit. So it's good.
I can see why they're scared.
Yeah.
Because this world will target you.
Yeah.
And I won't lie to you. I have people in my family that are concerned about that. But I also feel as well that if I'm not honest and truthful about it, then we're not going to get anywhere.
Yeah.
And I think that all the young guys that have reached out to me on TikTok or messaged me, and the friendships that I've made, they're looking for mentors. You got a generation of men out there and ladies as well that are looking for mentors.
Yeah.
They're attracted to people that want to say it because they want to say it. And I think it takes time for people to learn their voice. I'm 52. I'm 52 before I got on TikTok.
Yeah.
I mean, geez, mate, I'm
it's
freaking
good.
pensioner on there, right? But it's motivating to see people have that drive and that aspiration.
Yeah.
And also the stuff they share with me. Like, a lot of the content that I post about comes from them. They're sharing stuff with me going, "Hey, have you seen this, Chal?"
And then you're just like, boom, TikTok on that.
We'll make a video on that. But what I found was that my energy's strong in the morning. I'm down the gym in the morning. Like this morning, I was down there at 4:30 a.m.
Yeah, beast,
Did
man.
my hour of cardio, lifted my weights, made a TikTok video.
Nice.
And then went and did 2 site visits.
Yeah.
So
Those are your big tasks done. Have you seen any direct revenue numbers for your business from TikTok? Like, hey, seen you in Brisbane, I like what you stand for,
Yeah, we've sold a fair bit of work out of it now.
That's cool, man.
Yeah, so kits and installs as well.
Yeah, I think that's so cool, because you're not really on there promoting your business. You're just talking about problems within the industry. But then,
well, I have TikToks TikTok for my businesses, like for Smart Kits and QHI. So
is that on a separate page that I haven't?
The separate pages.
Okay,
and so what I'm finding is that people, because they've seen me, those ones will come up as suggestions.
Absolutely.
And it can be damaging, because some people have messaged me, "Oh, you're just that carport guy," right? I go, "Yeah, okay, that's right. Yeah, I'm just a carport guy. I found my niche in the building industry.
Nothing wrong with that.
It's like Swim Mart are just the swimming pool guys, right? But shit, they do a great job.
Yeah, fucking nice.
Like, I mean, honestly, we deal with building approvals, we deal with traffic, we deal with council, we deal with government regulation. I mean, dude, we've just found our niche. That's all it is. You know, so.
Last couple of questions. What, like you say, you get messages on TikTok. Are you getting, like, what do you sort of say to the young guys or males that are, I don't know, are they hesitant about getting in the game? Are they asking you for advice? Like, if
there's
they
really
have their
two
own...
types of message that I get there. Number one is those guys going, "Hey, I'd love to catch up and have a chat. We'll pick your brain about this. How did you get to where you're going? Like, what was it that drove you?" They've got questions about apprenticeships, whether they're too old to be an apprentice, how their employers treating them. So I find that I'm becoming a bit of an advice line.
Yeah, it's good.
That's the one type of question. The other type of question is, I'm currently in a building contract and I'm having a dispute with my builder. What would you suggest I do? There's a lot of that now.
Really?
There's a lot
so
of
a homeowner questioning you,
And a lot of people that are, buying their first homes, they've got a builder that's not great at communication, the relationship hasn't gone well, something's fallen apart, and they feel like they're trapped and railroaded. And so I always bring it back to the industry is designed around mediation. The industry is designed to protect you as the consumer. So use the mediation services where you can. But builders are bad at communicating. We're generally not great at that because they don't teach us that.
They just want to be good builders, man. And it's a different pillar to be like a business owner, a communicator, and dealing with clients. So
I bet you've got builder clients who don't answer phones on Monday. Right? Because every one of their customers has been out the build site on the Sunday. And they're going, "Oh shit, that doesn't look right." So the phone rings all day Monday. And just like, it's easier just to go, If I don't answer the call, they'll email me, and then I can filter the calls.
Yeah.
We know how the building industry works.
Yeah.
So builders by default aren't great communicators, and many customers find themselves caught up in situations where they're concerned about the builder going broke, builders not communicating with them, things that are being installed aren't as per the contract, and they don't know where to turn.
Yeah, and I think you did say this, but do you get a lot of calls of unfinished jobs or jobs that are an issue and you're going in to take over from other builders?
I've been asked that a number of times. The other one was I made a TikTok about a builder that collapsed, and the customer reached out to me and said, hey, we're one of the customers here. You haven't quite told that story accurately. There's an emotional attachment to this, and that builder was actually stealing from customers. He didn't just go broke because of the economy. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. You know, like, I mean, I'm a big-hearted person by nature, so for me it was hard to hear their distress because they'd lost hundreds of thousands of dollars. You know?
Yeah, tough.
And so that becomes a different type of conversation.
Yeah. Last point. This is all for you. So our market is pretty much a busy builder. We try and target guys under eight staff. Anything you sort of want to say to them, or tips or tricks, because that's what we try and do.
Yeah, watch your margins. You know, defend your margin the best way that you can, mate. And if using a service like yours helps customers defend those margins and price accordingly and competitively and protects them, and I think it's worth every cent.
Yeah, cool. Thanks very much, man. Legend.
Oh,
awesome.
Absolutely.
Thank you, man. That was good.